Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Soon, Qin Mu knocked out a devil divine arts practitioner and stripped his clothes. He changed appearance and just walked flamboyantly through the devil lands while they swarmed toward the abyss. There had been a sudden change in that area. The activity was noticed by everyone, and the whole city was alarmed. Even though the events happened fast and stopped soon, the power that had burst forth had been extremely terrifying. Whoosh! 2 devil gods flew toward the abyss. Numerous devils who had wings followed right after them. Qin Mu went against the crowd, slowly squeezing forward. In time, he walked out of the crowd and moved toward the city gate. He didn't dare to fly as he was in the city of the devils. He didn't know how many devil gods or experts of divine bridge realm and life and death realm were hiding around. Even the gods of Supreme Emperor Heaven wouldn't dare to be reckless here, so he could only slowly inch forward. While doing that, he became anxious again. When the 2 devil gods reached the bottom of the abyss, they would find the fainted Fu Rilio, and it wouldn't take them but a moment to bring him back to consciousness. When the devil god opened his eyes, he would definitely order a lockdown on all cities to look for Qin Mu. If he couldn't leave before the order for the lockdown was given, he might not be able to escape at all. The city had once been a divine city of Supreme Emperor Heaven, and it was unbelievably vast. It would take him some time to reach its outer walls. Qin Mu hurried until he finally came to the city gate. At that moment, a shout came from the abyss. Respectable king has commanded to immediately lock down the whole city. Restrict all devils from going out. Activate the formation, lock down the city. The ground, the sky, lock down all of them so even a mosquito would have to forget about going out. Qin Mu's expression changed slightly as he looked at the city gate. There were numerous strong workers of the devil race pushing the huge city gate forcefully to shut it. On the towers and other tall buildings, formation markings and runes lighted up. They flowed down from the tops of the buildings like water and went toward the city walls. Once the formation and rune markings on the city wall lighted up, beams of dazzling light shot into the sky. Between the markings, a huge space barrier began forming in the sky. At the base of the wall, there were quite a number of rune and formation markings flowing into the ground. Even the capital city of Eternal Peace didn't have such defensive preparations. If the formation markings in the sky fused with the formation markings in the ground, Qin Mu would have to forget about leaving the city. He seemed to suddenly melt, turning into a black shadow that moved quickly along the corner of the wall. It was heading straight for the city gate. Gates were huge and heavy. Even with dozens of strong devil workers working together, they could only slowly push it closed. The strong workers had cultivated corporeal body divine arts and had boundless strength, not spells and spirit weapons. They only cultivate their muscles and bones, raising their physical strength. There were similar strong workers in the army of Heavenly Saint Cult and Eternal Peace Empire. When a couple who had cultivated their strength to the extreme, they could even carry a stone statue that was the corporeal body of a god. Yet the city gate of this divine city required dozens of strong workers to push it. The shadow that was Qin Mu leaped through the shadows of the buildings like a phantom. He seemed akin to a spirit that was rushing to the bottom of the city gate. Before it closed, he had to leave or else he would have no way out. With the effort of the numerous strong devil workers, the gate was about to be closed. There was only a small gap left between the 2 huge doors. Suddenly, a shiny bead rolled over and got jammed right between the 2 doors, preventing it from being closed. A strong worker beside the door saw this and kicked the bead out of the city. He grumbled and pushed the huge doors shut. It's just that he didn't see that when he kicked, his shadow had rolled out together with the bead, fusing with the shadow of the bead. The bead continued to roll for over 30 yards. It rolled to the side of the moat and gradually stopped there. The oval-shaped shadow under the bead suddenly grew limbs, and its 2 shadow-like arms became longer and longer. They soon put force on the shiny bead, and it rolled forward and dropped into the river with a plop. After a moment, in the shadow on the opposite the moat, a pitch-black shadow crawled out and moved close to the ground. Soon, the city gate opened wide and countless devils rushed out of the city. That person is not in the city. Find him immediately, we can't let him leave our territory. Qin Mu hid and dodged, avoiding all the watchtowers. He utilized his phantom illusion technique to its extreme for that. In time, he went up high and looked afar, but he still couldn't see Li City. Fu Riluo had brought me to the territory of the devils, but where exactly is this place? How far is it from the human territory? The land was vast and the sky was dim. The sun in the east was cold as it gradually became red, signaling the coming of night. Qin Mu composed himself and hid his figure. Supreme Emperor Heaven doesn't have even one star, so it's hard to orient oneself. I can only hurry on my way in the morning. The scouts of the devil race searched everywhere while Qin Mu hid here and there. When he was about to be discovered, he killed the devil scout and changed into his thick black iron armor. With the helmet and a long black iron devil spear hanging on the hooks of the horse, he roamed on a devil fire nightmare through the fog of the devil territory. On the second day, the ugly broken sun lit up as usual, and Qin Mu pushed open the face cover of the black iron helmet to orient himself. He used devil language to steer the devil fire nightmare toward the east. When afternoon came, Qin Mu raised his head toward the sun, and his face changed drastically. The broken sun in the east had suddenly extinguished. Imperial Preceptor, aren't you being a little too efficient? Qin Mu almost spewed out a mouthful of old blood. He had told Imperial Preceptor to assist Supreme Emperor Heaven in designing two suns, so the broken sun's disappearance from the sky was definitely linked to him. This had to be because Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor found the sun unbearable to look at and summoned all of the divine arts practitioners to Supreme Emperor Heaven to get rid of the thing and reforge it. With the sun gone, it was almost impossible for Qin Mu to orient himself. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In Li City, flames blazed and lit up the darkness. With the light of spirit energy mutual shift bridge connecting Supreme Emperor Heaven with great ruins, numerous divine arts practitioners were pouring in from Eternal Peace. They had built a huge factory beside Li City and begun forging giants as well as all kinds of components day and night. True God Pang Yu fetched the blueprints that nobody understood. They displayed some great furnace and were left behind by Sun Forger God. The god hadn't had time to finish forging the second sun before he was assassinated by the devils, but luckily his blueprints had survived. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor summoned numerous divine arts practitioners skilled in algebra and recalculated, improving the blueprints. He set extremely high requirements for precision. What the divine arts practitioners of Li City were forging was the Sun Great Furnace. My lord, I've lost junior brother. On the city tower of Li City, the black tiger god tumbled to the ground and transformed into a little black tiger that was only a foot tall. It had black and yellow stripes running down his body. He lighted up a stick of incense and prayed respectfully. The smoke of the incense rose in spirals and condensed into a cloud above him. It transformed into Saint Woodcutter's face, which was staring at him expressionlessly. The little tiger bowed his head and glued his ears together at the back of his head, not daring to speak. After a moment, Saint Woodcutter's voice reached him. What do I need you for? The black tiger god felt his blood run cold and hurriedly said, Don't worry, my lord, I will definitely find junior brother Qin. After the smoke dispersed, Saint Woodcutter's voice spoke again. I've gone to the world of the devils, and I'm temporarily unable to return. If I come back and don't see that disciple of mine, you shall stay in this form forever and can forget about turning back. The black tiger god let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, he heard a crisp and loud voice from afar. Fatty dragon, even though young master is in this world, won't you starve if we don't find him after you had eaten all your spirit pills in one go? There was a chuckle, and another muffled voice spoke. Sister Linger, you might not have noticed, but when I had painstakingly snatched back some of my spirit pills from the devil general in the chest, I've only dared to eat a spirit pill a day. I've already starved to the point that I'm only bones. Look, take a look, I'm much skinnier than before. To prevent young master from not being able to recognize me, I had decided to eat all of the remaining spirit pills. Yet even so, I'm worried that I won't recover to my previous state. I've heard young master is lost. If we can't find him, You'll starve to death. Cult Master is so clever, how could he be lost? The black tiger god looked toward the source of the voices. He first saw a huge chest, then a behemoth with a huge tummy. When he walked up the city tower, his fats were jiggling randomly. It seemed like a huge monster that had the bloodline of a dragon and a Qin. On the head of this fatty sat an adorable little girl that looked to be 5 or 6 years old. She had 6 snow-white foxtails behind her, and there were 2 furry ears on her head. Sanghua, Yu-He, and the rest were following behind. There were 2 young girls he had not seen before among them. The little girl with the furry tail and furry ears saw him, and her eyes couldn't help shining brightly. She jumped down from the big fatty's head and giggled as she rushed straight for the black tiger god. She clapped her hands and said with a smile, "What a cute little Tigwa, let me hug you." The black tiger god smelt the odor of a fox, and his face turned black. He trembled and transformed into a beautiful and big black tiger that was over 30 yards large. He roared toward the sky, and his god aura and fierceness assaulted the surrounding area. The expression of the little fox demon changed drastically, and she turned around to run toward the unfamiliar girls. She jumped into the embrace of one of them before starting to bawl. Big Tigwa. The young girl turned the demon fox away from him while the big fatty sat down on his buttocks and raised his head to look at the behemoth in front of him in awe. Sanghua hurriedly went forward and said, "Senior Tiger, these few are the friends of Cult Master Qin." The black tiger god dispersed his god aura and fierceness before transforming back into a black tiger youth. He retracted his sharp claws and his ears flapped twice. "I've been scammed by a fox in my early years, so I can't meet a fox demon, pardon me." Little fox demon popped her head out and said with a smile, "I don't scam people." She collected her courage and walked out from Ling Yuxiu's back to examine the black tiger god. "Can I touch your ears?" she asked with curiosity. The black tiger god hesitated before lowering his head. "I've scared you just now, so I'll let you do it." Hu Linga touched them and exclaimed in admiration, "How soft! You guys, try touching." Ling Yuxiu hesitated. Wouldn't this not be good? After saying that, she encouraged herself to try it and cried out in astonishment. "They are really very soft and smooth." The other girls also stretched out their hands to touch, and the black tiger god felt somewhat comfortable. However, he still didn't think it was proper. He was a demon god after all, and it was quite embarrassing to be touched like this. However, it was indeed very comfortable. The dragon Qin came forward and planned to have a try as well. The black tiger god immediately raised his paw and pressed the fellow on the ground. After a moment, everyone was satisfied, and the black tiger god asked, "How do you guys plan to find junior brother Qin?" "Very simple, primordial spirit assembly," Sai Yinxiang said with a smile. Primordial spirit assembly? The black tiger god was puzzled. He had never heard of this phrase before. Sai Yinxiang took out a huge stack of blueprints and laid them out in the city tower. Drawn on them were all kinds of rune markings. This is a technique that cult master and divine arts practitioners of eternal peace work together to create, and it was named Secrets of 3 Primordial Spirit Assembly by the Emperor. Sai Yinxiang searched for a moment and found Qin Mu's primordial spirit marking, then took out cinnabar and brush. After dissolving the cinnabar, she started drawing on the pillars of the city tower. Cult Master once imprinted everyone's primordial spirit marking in Imperial College's Hall of Supreme Learning. His own marking was also there. Primordial Spirit Assembly uses them to attract a person's primordial spirit over, so everyone could gather with their primordial spirits to discuss matters. Ling Yuxiu took out a stick of incense and stabbed it below the primordial spirit marking, then lit it up. This soul guide incense that Cowherd had created from the divine art soul guide. It is used to bring a primordial spirit over. We want to use it and the markings to make a connection with his primordial spirit, then guide it over her and ask him about his location. The 2 girls looked at each other, and Sai Yinxiang released her vital qi, lighting up Qin Mu's primordial spirit marking. Ling Yuxiu in the meantime used her vital qi to wrap the fragrance of soul guide incense to send it into the primordial spirit marking. Everyone waited quietly in the tower and watched the soul guide incense burn down. Its smoke rose in spirals, but the fragrance wasn't too thick, more like refreshing. Incense didn't last for too long, so as the soul guide incense burned down bit by bit, everyone's heart was on tenterhooks. The primordial spirit marking and soul guide incense would invoke a reaction with Qin Mu's primordial spirit, so he would just need to execute secrets of 3 primordial spirit assembly to be able to come to them. However, if he'd met with some bad luck, he wouldn't be able to come to meet them. When soul guide incense was halfway done and there was still no activity, everyone became worried. But at that moment, wind howled and rushed into the city tower. Everyone was delighted. They saw that Qin Mu's primordial spirit was faintly discernible and not stable. "Cult Master, where are you?" The dragon Qin was extremely delighted and cried out hurriedly, "The spirit pills you have prepared are finished. Come back quickly. I prepared enough pills for 3-4 months for you, so how have you finished them already?" The dragon Qin was speechless. "Young master, we're looking for you." "Where are you now?" Hu Linger asked. Qin Mu shook his head. "I also don't know. I'm in the devil's territory, but there are no sun, moon, or stars in the sky to orient myself. I was kidnapped by Fu Riluo, but managed to escape with difficulty. Now I'm being pursued by the elites of the devil race, so my primordial spirit can't stay here for long." Everyone frowned greatly. Sanghua suddenly spoke up. "Brother who threshes the grains, look at the terrain of the surrounding mountains and remember them. Check if there are any cities around. Supreme Emperor Heaven has 64 cities, and the name of each one is different. The terrain around each city is also different, so whatever you tell us, we'll be able to determine your location." Qin Mu's primordial spirit picked up the cinnabar brush and drew on the ground. He quickly painted the terrain around him. "I didn't see any god city." Sanghua, Yu He, and the rest of the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven took a look, then shook their heads. They were too young and hadn't been to the devil's territory before. "Let me call my father." Sanghua left in a hurry. Suddenly Qin Mu's primordial spirit dimmed. "The enemies are here. I need to go back." A gust of violent wind blew out of the city tower, and the primordial spirit disappeared without a trace. Not long later, Sanghua brought God Zhengyi over, and he examined the terrain that Qin Mu had drawn in detail. He thought for a moment before crying out, "He's near the devil's old nest. He is in Black Sun Mountain Range, that's beside Returning Maiden City." Yu He frowned. "Returning Maiden City? Wasn't that God's city destroyed? I've heard that place has become an ominous land." God Zhengyi nodded. "When the devils invaded, they first appeared in Returning Maiden City and completely destroyed it. In front of Black Sun Mountain Range is the battlefield of Returning Maiden City. That place was the cruelest battlefield in Supreme Emperor Heaven, close to 1,000 gods and devils died there. The numbers of divine arts practitioners that lost their lives on both sides are uncountable. If he continues walking forward, he will enter that ominous land." "Why do you say that place is ominous?" Ling Yuxiu asked in puzzlement. "Too many gods and devils died there, and their blood has all gathered together, forming an extremely strange zone. It is filled with the undying wills of gods and devils as well as curses and devil nature of the damned souls. So many divine arts practitioners, gods, and devils were lost there that they could make the entire zone light up like day when night falls." There was a hint of terror in his voice when he continued. "What light up the night are barn lanterns. They hang on the small boats that come from Yudu. Countless messengers of death sailed around, making that old battlefield a treacherous place. Back then, I had yet to cultivate to the god realm and was only a small soldier. After the huge battle, the place had become incomparably desolate. Young Zhengyi had suffered heavy injuries in the battle, and when he woke up, the sky was already dark. When he crawled up from the pile of corpses, he saw an unforgettable sight. Small boats sailed from the darkness, and under their lanterns were thousands of elders that looked exactly the same. They went around silently and reaped the souls from the battlefield. The elders didn't make a sound, yet the night was filled with the wails of countless souls who didn't want to fall into Yudu. However, none of them were spared from the grasp of the messengers of death. They followed the small boats and floated into the darkness of Yudu. God Sangye could never forget that sight. The broken souls weren't taken away by the messengers of death, so as time went by, that place became an ominous land. There have been numerous strange incidents in there, and numerous peculiar things hide in that place. God Sangye composed himself before continuing. Afterwards, both us and the devils have given up on that place. If Cult Master Qin continues to go forward, he will step into that ominous land. The dragon Qilin suddenly cried out. The mixing of god blood and devil blood can give birth to terrifying things like Lonely Mountain Ridge Root Demon. Quickly inform Cult Master to avoid that place, the dragon Qilin cried out. How strong is Lonely Mountain Ridge Root Demon? God Sangye asked. About equivalent to a strong practitioner of life and death realm. God Sangye sneered. That should only be a little fellow. The things in the ominous land are even stronger than divine arts practitioners of life and death realm. Quickly tell him to avoid that place. Cai Yunxiang and Ling Yuxiu hurriedly contacted Qin Mu again, yet even when the incense had finished burning, he still hadn't responded. He should have encountered enemies, so he doesn't have the time to reply. This is bad. Cai Yunxiang said. Those enemies must be strong, and they might even force him into the ominous land. I shall go over there and fetch him back, the Black Tiger God said resolutely. God Sangye shook his head. You can't go. The journey would be too long, and there are too many variables. If you meet a devil god on the way, even you would die there. It's best if you guys stay here and wait for his primordial spirit to reply, hoping that he will be able to walk out of the ominous land. Only by walking out could he have the chance to survive. The Black Tiger God frowned and shook his head. I was the one that lost him. I need to find him. Cai Yunxiang and Ling Yuxiu looked at each other and said in unison, We'll follow you. Me too. Hu Linga raised her tails and looked at her companion. The dragon Qilin hesitated. Hu Linga's eyes narrowed, and she said gently, Fatty dragon, if we can't find young master, you will have to starve. The dragon Qilin was instantly full of vitality. Count me in. Sanghua looked at her father and said, Father, they are unfamiliar with this place. God Sangye felt a headache coming. Just be careful. A day after you guys enter the devil's territory, I will lead troops to attack and attract their attention. You guys will be safer that way. At the borders of the ominous land, the devil fire nightmare under Qin Mu let out a cry when its legs were cut off by a series of knife lights. A devil divine arts practitioner sliced open the horse's belly and attacked Qin Mu, who was on its back. Qin Mu leaped up while pressing down with his palm. He shattered the devil along with the horse in a single move. Whoosh! An old woman rushed over with a huge calabash. Bloodlight poured out from it like a flood and drowned Qin Mu out. With a bloody stink, it swirled frantically before taking the shape of a huge crimson python that coiled around Qin Mu, snapping his bones. Formation markings swirled in Qin Mu's eyes, and sun rose from the Milky Way. Two beams of light shot out. One severed the head of the snake while the other severed the neck of the old woman. A scorpion lady swung her barbed tail, and it pierced through Qin Mu's shoulder, lifting him up high. She smashed him ruthlessly onto the ground, and a devil youth carrying 8 big flags bowed toward Qin Mu. The 8 flags flew out and poles stabbed into the ground around Qin Mu. Devil connecting mountain formation. Suppress, 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 suppress. When the devil youth shouted the word 8 times, 8 mountain apparitions descended from the sky with loud explosions. The ground trembled from them. Suddenly, countless stars flashed in the apparitions of the 8 mountains and transformed into great overarching heavenly stars force field. With the palm of Qin Mu, the 8 mountains shattered. He rushed out of the flag formation and saw over a dozen knife pellets swirling furiously toward him. He hurriedly pointed his hand in that direction, and a huge fixed word appeared in the air. The dozens of knife pellets froze in the air. The next moment, though, they began to spin and countless devil knives shot out, slashing the fixed word into pieces. Qin Mu turned, and, stepping on stars, he avoided the countless devil knives by a hair's breadth. His sword pellet flew up then. Sweeping against the wind, it shattered all the blades in the air. Over a dozen devil soldiers with 3 heads and 4 arms rushed over. They advanced and retreated, attacked and defended as they fought furiously with Qin Mu. He blocked over and over again, suffering from dozens of blows in the blink of an eye. He then hurriedly escaped underground. The 4-armed devils pressed their hands against it, causing the ground to bulge up, and Qin Mu was forced out. He leaped into midair, but crashed down a moment later. He moved like a dragon and slithered like a snake, rushing into a huge swamp before him. Numerous devil soldiers chased him to the side of the big swamp, but suddenly they all stopped and frowned. "Should we go in?" a devil divine arts practitioner asked in a low voice. Qin Mu walked into the huge swamp and looked around. There were thick fog and devil chi all around. Below the clear water, corpses floated. They would occasionally pop out onto the surface of the swamp, revealing their skeletons and some rusted spirit weapons. He pondered for a moment before coming closer. He gently knocked the skeleton on the ground and asked with a smile, "This brother, how do I navigate here?" The skeleton sat up and turned to look at him. He opened his mouth. "This is the road to the Yellow Springs. You can enter, but there's no return." Qin Mu sat beside the skeleton and took out ointments to treat his own injuries. "I'm originally from the Yellow Springs, so why should I be scared of them?" he said with a smile. The skeleton stood up and said, "This place is an ominous land in which no one can survive. The only way for you to live is to immediately turn around and leave." Qin Mu squeezed the spoiled blood from his wounds and pulled out the devil chi. "Going back is then the path to death, so I will still have a chance if I advance forward. Do you know which path is safer?" The skeleton shook its head. Qin Mu finished applying medicine to himself and executed his vital chi. He circulated it 1 round, and when his wounds didn't burst open, he stood up. "Do you know where's north, south, east, and west?" "That's east." The skeleton pointed his finger forward. "Thank you." Qin Mu turned in the direction the skeleton had pointed out and begun walking. 2 steps later, he stopped and turned back with a smile. "Brother, why are you following me?" The skeleton was right behind him. It hurriedly stopped when it saw him stop. "I was in a daze and couldn't remember what had happened to me when I was alive, but now I've recalled some hazy memories. And since you're the one that awoke me, I naturally have to follow you." Qin Mu burst out laughing. "Humans and ghosts walk different paths. You can't keep following me, so just go back to sleep. When I was in a daze, I could sleep and not care about the seasons or the battles of the world. However, you awakened me and now I can't sleep. You have disturbed my slumber and have to take responsibility for that. You're such an unreasonable ghost." Feeling helpless, Qin Mu turned around and explained seriously, "I saw that you still had some soul, so I used 10,000 spirit nature technique to wake you up to ask for directions. However, you don't know anything. You can't show me the path that would keep me alive. Besides, you're dead, so even if I manage to leave this ominous land alive, you won't be able to follow me to the world of the living. Brother, you're already dead, so just go back to sleep." The skeleton shook his head. "I had no worries before, but you woke me up and now I worry again. You need to help me settle it." Qin Mu's head ached, but he still said with a smile, "In that case, I will execute 10,000 spirit nature technique to pull out your broken soul, allowing you to go back to heaven and earth. You will be returned to slumber. How's that?" "No," the skeleton shook his head. "Since I've already awoken, dispersing my su is the same as killing me. That pain of it, I'm not willing." Qin Mu truly had a headache. He turned around and continued to head east. Behind him, the skeleton continued to follow him. Since he felt troubled, Qin Mu wanted to try persuading the skeleton again, but water churned from both sides of the swamp. A corpse that had soaked in the water until it was snow-white stood up and looked straight at him. Qin Mu's heart swiveled up. The people in the swamp had died countless years ago, yet their corpses had yet to decompose. The armor on their bodies was tattered, but present, and their eyes still glowed with bloodlight, their sinister air evident. The corpses had been extremely powerful when they were alive, so their corpses also had a thick aura after death. They were extremely terrifying. Suddenly, the huge skeleton behind Qin Mu let out a loud roar. The corpses in the water seemed to have received an order and sank into the water one after another. Qin Mu was astonished. Why do they listen to you? The skeleton was also in a daze. He thought for a moment, then said, I can faintly remember that they are my subordinates that died here alongside me. I saw that they wanted to hurt you, so I scolded them. Luckily they still listened to me. Qin Mu became interested and asked with a smile, who were you before you died? Do you still remember? The skeleton pondered over it, but then shook his head. I don't remember. Qin Mu's interest grew even greater, and he stopped in his footsteps. I have a divine art that can establish access to Yudu, allowing broken souls to gather. Let me cast it, and I might be able to let you remember some stuff. If you manage that, you won't have to follow me anymore. Delighted, the skeleton said with a smile, if I could do so, I would definitely repay this huge favor. Qin Mu plucked down his hairpin and let his hair fall around his shoulders. He then took up his Saturn sovereign true form with Gate of Heaven influence behind him. After that, he cast Soul Guide of 9 Spectres sect with low-spoken and cryptic devil language. This video will end here.